Emerald Ranch, a settlement in the Heartlands region of New Hanover. At the time, it was once a thriving community with its very own saloon, train station and general store, aspiring to be something similar to what the McFarlane's ranch would become some years later. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary to the outside world, but rumours and whispers are rife about this place and its owner, one Eugene Wegner. Whilst travelling through the Heartlands as Arthur, I came across a lady who was in need of assistance. She resided at Emerald Ranch and had an interesting take on the place.
Emerald Ranch, well, it's a strange place.
How so?
The owner's a mean bastard. Strange, too. Delights in bullying folk. There's a daughter, but she never leaves the house. You can see her in the windows sometimes. When I asked about her, everybody told me to leave it alone. Found an old saloon there, all shut down now, but I went in to have a look, and there's bullet holes, old blood stains. Something definitely happened there, but I couldn't figure it. Just an uncomfortable feeling to the place.
Eugene is perceived as a bully and a controlling man whom many fear. His daughter never leaves the house neither, but can sometimes be seen peering out of the window onto the ranch. The lady also mentioned about an occurrence at the saloon, but she was unclear as to the events. The fact that when asking about specific things concerning the ranch helper was told to leave it alone seems not only peculiar but intriguing to me. Later, during Chapter 2, when Arthur travels to Emerald Ranch to meet Hosea, the ranch foreman, who's introduced as Seamus, seems fearful of his boss, with Hosea later commenting on what he'd learned.
So what's the story with that Emerald Ranch? You find out anything else?
A little. Owner's a nasty type by all accounts. Seamus is sure scared of him. Can you just get this done?
That's not saying much.
Something strange about the place. Used to be a saloon there, general store. Now it's all closed up, but they seem to have money.
Sounds worth a look around.
For sure. Seamus also mentioned the rancher's daughter a couple of times. How he used to see her around all the time, but now she never leaves the house. Probably just sweet on her.
There's also a camper out in the wilderness who tells of what he knows about the ranch. I couldn't manage to obtain his footage myself, so I'll be crediting a YouTuber called Jay, whose channel I'll be linking in the video description.
Say you know Emerald Ranch? Sure. I picked up some labor there for a couple weeks. If I need a reminder why I live the way I do, that was it. The boss there's the worst kind of bastard. Treats everyone worse than the dirt they work on. Don't care so long as he's getting richer.
Yep.
Yeah, you know the kind I mean. I ain't answering to any man. Least of all a man like that. Strangest thing was I'd see this girl in the house sometimes, but she never came outside. One of the workers told me the rancher was kind of obsessed with his daughter. Rumor was he killed a fellow there who fell in love with her and kept her locked up for now. Don't know what's true or not, only that nobody there seemed very happy.
Mentioning that the owner was obsessed with his daughter, Eugene Wegner apparently killed the man she was in love with. The pieces of the puzzle were certainly forming together. Just south of Fort Wallace, in the Cumberland Forest region of New Hanover, I came across an abandoned mail cart which still contained multiple letters that had failed to be delivered, one of which was definitely a strong relation to the rancher's daughter and the situation we're investigating. It reads as follows. My dearest Miriam, I decided that I would write to you again because even though our worlds seem so far apart these days, I think of you often. New York is crowded and dirty, but so alive. It feels like anything is possible, even for a country girl like me, and my biggest news is that I've been cast in a Henrik Ibsen play. It's a small role, but now I can finally call myself a Broadway actress. Sometimes I do miss home though, the peace and the clean air, being able to take a ride at first light. I received a letter from Lily Millett a while back, and it appears that she's been experiencing some financial difficulties. She was always very sensible with money, so I am worried that that weasel Cooper has had his claws in her again. She also mentioned that she has not seen you leave the house in months. I cannot even begin to imagine how painful it must have been for you to lose Joshua in such a horrible way, and I would never assume to instruct you how to grieve, but I worry about you existing in such isolation. This must have been the 6th letter I've sent to you with no response. Please let me know that you are all right, even if it's just the shortest of notes to tell me to mind my own business. You can tell me anything. Your loving cousin, Annabelle. P.S. Uncle Eugene, with the greatest of respect, if you are withholding my mail from Miriam, or dare I say, constraining her in any other way, I beg you to reconsider your actions. I know how much you love her, but please do not confuse love with possession. She is a beautiful, intelligent woman with so much life ahead of her. There are a few things that are important to take note of in this letter. Firstly, the mention of Lily and Cooper, whom Arthur met during a debt collection, confirmed that this letter was indeed intended for Emerald Ranch. It also mentions the death of one Joshua and how Miriam isolating herself was not the best way to be grieving. Several letters had been sent to the ranch, all of which went unresponded, and lastly, Annabelle, who had been writing her cousin, made a postscript pleading with her uncle Eugene not to be keeping his daughter locked away. Was this something he had a reputation for, an action of his that wouldn't surprise others? It was time to head to Emerald Ranch and delve deeper into the investigation. Firstly, I headed to the saloon that had been mentioned a couple of times. Upon entering, it was clear by the cobwebs and dust that this hadn't been active in some time, but there was definitely more to the place than this. Openly visible to anyone who entered, there are blood prints and drag marks across the floor. Broken bottles surrounding the scene definitely indicated that there was a scuffle of some sorts. 3 bullet holes in the wall certainly proved that shots were fired during this exchange, with the gunman leaving 3 casings behind. Around the back of the saloon, things looked even more interesting. A gravesite marked Joshua Burgess, accidentally shot in August of 1898, a year prior to the events of Red Dead Redemption 2. Was this the violent end that occurred in the saloon? To top this, the primary gravesite to Emerald Ranch was located elsewhere, so why was this particular grave separated from the main resting place? More on that in the theory. Heading to the main house of the ranch, I was met by Eugene Wegner, who became immediately hostile towards Arthur as he drew closer to the home. Why was he so aggressive towards trespassers? What exactly was he hiding? After dealing with Eugene, I attempted to enter the home, only to find that the doors were either locked up tight or obstructed, preventing access. All of the windows were covered, preventing visibility inside too. Listening closely, you could sometimes hear heated arguments coming from the home, although at times difficult to understand what exactly is being said. Going back to what was stated about the daughter, I chose to hang around the home. After a while of waiting, I was indeed able to see what some others had claimed. Eugene's daughter would appear in the upstairs window at times, although it was always at odd hours during the night time, watching the ranch from a room. Why did she never leave the home? Was it by choice, or was she being held captive? The latter seemed to confirm the contents of the letter written to Miriam Wegner by her cousin, Annabelle. So if Eugene was indeed keeping his daughter held captive, preventing her from leaving the family home, the question really was why. To figure that out, we need to theorize. Joshua Burgess was a young ranch hand whom fell in love with Miriam Wegner. Eugene, her father, being a bully and a control freak, forbade the workers from going anywhere near his daughter, to which this rule was broken. Upon discovering their relationship, Eugene would have lost his temper, as we seen he did so easily when Arthur drew near to the home. It would seem that he led Joshua Burgess to the saloon, possibly under false pretenses, maybe leading him to believe that he was going to give his blessing on the forbidden relationship. Obviously, this was an ambush, as we can see by the blood, broken bottles, bullet holes and shell casings that surround the saloon. Eugene emerged victorious over the now dead Joshua. Preventing this from happening again, Eugene would lock away Miriam, to which he was now forced to live a life looking out of her bedroom window over the ranch. Going back to the mail cart, we can see that it's been ambushed on the road, making sure that the letters didn't make it to the ranch. Annabelle confirmed that she'd sent a total of 6 letters, all with no response. I understand that the ambush mail cart may seem a little far-fetched as opposed to just intercepting it and taking the specific letters, but let's remember about Eugene's temper. Killing a man and locking away his daughter, all because of a relationship he disapproved of. Also, Annabelle's first response to her uncle was that she prayed he wasn't keeping his daughter captive. Why would she jump to this conclusion if he didn't have some form of a history of these acts before? Why was the saloon left as a crime scene instead of just cleaning it up to avoid alerting the law? This may have simply been left as a reminder to the other ranch hands as to what happens if they attempt to go near Miriam Wegner. As far as the gravestone being placed next to the saloon instead of the primary Emerald Ranch gravesite, this may have been Eugene's way of making sure that people knew Joshua was no longer considered to be part of the ranch, past or present. He was shunned. But if that's the case, why was there any grave at all? Referring back to Annabelle's letter, it's apparent that Eugene had a history of locking away his daughter. Miriam knew that after her father discovering her and Joshua's forbidden relationship, that this time the lockdown would be permanent. In one last plea to her father, she requested that Joshua be given a proper burial next to the place where his life ended. This theory also takes us to the abandoned general store opposite the saloon. Through the front window, the player can see a mannequin looking out, which doesn't seem out of place at first, but if you manage to get inside the store, things may appear somewhat different. The entire store has been stripped of product, all except for the mannequin, which is clothed in a female's attire. To somehow settle Miriam's mind, she may have dressed the mannequin in her own clothing, as it was watching over not only the location of the final moments of Joshua Burgess's life, but also from this position she could view the gravesite. This seemed to be her only way to connect with her former lover after he met his tragic end, as locked away, she is never able to visit the gravesite and say her goodbyes. So what do you guys think happened at the Emerald Ranch Saloon? Do you agree with today's updated theory as to the events, or do you have a theory of your own? Make sure to let us know in the comment section below. A big shout out to GreyFox4577, as without their comment, this video may not even have happened. If you guys enjoyed what you saw today, you all know what to do, and if you're new here and aren't subscribed already to the channel, please consider doing so. If you wish to get in touch, you can do so by finding the channel's Instagram page, which is linked below in the video description, as well as any other social medias you may need. Thank you all for watching. You've been listening to Phil, and I'll see you in the next one.